We have got all the budding memory participants, memory trainers, teachers and students who are going to attend these sessions, and we keep learning from each other's experience. And today, or to all my friends in the country, it is first time in the history of India, history of Indian memory, a chapter that we got the living legend in the field of memory, the guru of gurus, Dominic sir, a person whom I always dreamt of meeting, shaking hands, being with him, and then taking his one selfie and taking his autograph. And today I am honored to be interviewing him today. Dominic sir is 8 times world memory champion. You heard me right, 8 times world memory champion. It's equal to winning 8 Olympic gold medals. Unstoppable. A king, none could throw him off. And he was a pioneer in the field of memory. The time the memory sports started from first year, he had been connected with the World Memory Sports Council. He's an author and also celebrity trainer from Donald Trump. Ask me who he trained. And then also he's the chief of ethics committee. And then I had been with him last 3-4 years when we had the World Memory Championships in Shenzhen, and then Hong Kong, Guangzhou, and also last year, 2019, when we had that Indian Online Memory Championship. We had the privilege of having Dominic sir and also Phil Chambers, the chief arbiter, the World Memory Sports Council in India, in Bangalore. And I had the privilege of being with him. And today we're going to talk to Dominic O'Brien. So to all the children, all the youngsters, all the parents, all the teachers, hold your breath. This session is not going to come. It's going to happen once in a lifetime. And we are so fortunate to listen to such a wonderful person. So put your hands together. Welcome, Dominic sir. Sir, welcome to our wonderful session. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everyone. And thank you, Squadron Leader Jayasimha, for inviting me on this special occasion, because I'm very pleased to hear that you're going to have your Indian Memory Championships at the end of this month. And, a lot of people don't appreciate what it takes to set up a competition. They think that, you get all the glory, but you don't. You have to, there's a lot of sweat, there's a lot of blood and tears and a lot of effort, and it just doesn't come out of thin air. I was very fortunate enough to be involved with the very first World Memory Championships in 1991. And I know over these years, these 30 odd years, that Tony Bazan, who was the co-founder with Ray Keane, a chess grandmaster, the amount of work that they had to do, the amount of doors they had to find opened, people that were interested, they had to raise the finance, and of course, they had to get the competitors. And back in 1991, I was fortunate to be one of 7 competitors to take part in the very first World Memory Championships. So that was back in 1991. Congratulations to you, for organizing this. And we hope that you can hold a World Memory Championships in India, the first one to be held in India, very soon.
Dominic sir, before you advise our participants, just want to ask you a question. Yeah. How did this interest of memory came to you? When right now you are a role model, we have been reading a lot of books, we got a lot of content on Google, and we got a lot of coaches who talk about memory. But when you started, how did you get this interest that about memory? How did you dedicate your time? How did your journey began? From your school, college, university to this memory sport? How did you actually graduate? And why did you become so passionate about this memory, sir?
Very good question. You can call it serendipity, one of my favorite words, serendipity, something good from something bad. And when I was a baby, I had a fight with a train down in Hastings in the south of England, where we had a famous battle, 1066, but my battle was with a train. Long story short, my pushchair that my brother, who was 8 years old, was holding on to while my mother was in the shop, he let go. He lost his attention, and I was carried off by a train. My pushchair got hooked up with a train that was leaving the station at Hastings, and I got tumbled over onto the track. I've got a scar here. I was rushed to hospital. I was 8 months old, and they found a lot of heavy bruising here.
Okay.
And the question was, did this little baby Dominic have brain damage? I don't remember anything about it, by the way. And they said, well, we'll have to see how he gets on at school. So when I was at school, the psychologists back in the 1960s hadn't invented attention deficit disorder, ADD.
Yeah.
But that's what I believe I had. So the nearest diagnosis they came up with was dyslexia. I'm left-handed. I was a daydreamer. I've got my school report somewhere here. They say, I keep these just for nostalgic reasons, just to prove that I was a useless student. They said I would never achieve any success. All I do is daydream during the class. I found it very difficult to concentrate on what the teachers were saying. I used to enjoy daydreaming because I could go off to the universe, anywhere in the world, and escape the class, which was very boring for me at the time. Now, as we know, if you want to become a world memory champion, there's two things you need. You need to be able to concentrate, and you need to have a good memory. Those two things I didn't have when I was a child. So my message, before we forget to say the message, is that, look, if I can become a world memory champion, there's hope for everyone. So your question is, how did I turn this round? Well, I was watching television with my mother back in 1987 when I saw an amazing man called Creighton Carvello, who used to memorize all the sporting statistics, football, horse racing, he even knew the crowd attendance. But the most impressive thing was he memorized a deck of cards. Okay. Like this. So it was shown to him like this: 10 of spades, 4 of diamonds. Hope you're memorizing this, people watching this. 9 of clubs, 7 of hearts, and so on. And he did those cards in just under 3 minutes to get a new world record. And I'd never seen anything like it. It just blew my mind. And I wanted to know how he did it. Now, this is in 1987, the days before the internet. You mentioned Google. At the start, there was no Google. So first thing I did is I went down to the library to find a book on how to improve your memory. There was nothing. So I had to think about it myself. So here's my first bit of advice. Don't go and buy a book immediately. Sit down with a deck of cards, see how many you can memorize, see if you can work it out for yourself, see if you can come up with a strategy. That gets you inside the challenge. When you run out of ideas, if you run out of ideas, then go and get a book, go and get Squadron leader Jayasima's or mine, or look on Google for the answers, but try it for yourself. So that's what got me fascinated. That's what got me intrigued in the first place. There were no books. I had to work it out for myself. I thought I'd come up with a unique technique. And then in my research for my first book, I realized that the Greeks had developed this technique thousands of years, well, 2,000 years ago. And we now think this is possibly hundreds of thousands of years old, going back to early hunter-gatherer. It's a unique survival tool, memory. So it's a forgotten art, if you excuse the pun. But you and I and others and the competitors and people watching this are reviving the ancient art of memory, and it is very crucial for the intellect. And good God, do we need it these days with what's going on in the world? Over to you. Yes, sir.
My question, Dominic, is one time becoming champion itself is someone's life dream, but not once, second, third, 4, 5, 8 times you went out to become world memory champion. How did you sustain this momentum? Normally, people, once they do, they give up. How did you maintain this momentum in your life so long?
Yes, so memory competing comes with a warning. It can be quite addictive. And having become the first world memory champion back in 1991, I didn't want to lose it. And the great thing about memory is that if you keep training, your memory gets better and better. There doesn't appear to be a limit. Now, it does. I mean, initially when you start training, your rate of increase memory capacity, it goes like that, then it starts to level out a bit. But I haven't noticed it peak. It's peaked for me because I'm lazy. Although I compete now in the senior championships, I don't train like I used to train. It's interesting that if you want to become pretty good, if you want to do some amazing things with your memory, you only need to train about 10, 15 minutes a day. If you want to become a national champion, like the Indian Memory Championships, you've got to train at least 3 hours a day, I would say. To become a world memory champion, we're talking about 6 to 10 hours a day for a minimum of 6 months. So that's the level of dedication that's required. So yes, it was such a thrill for me. Can you imagine the turnaround, being described as a bit of a dunce at school, dyslexic, will never achieve any success in life, to suddenly get on the world stage and be proclaimed a world memory champion? Of course, I wanted to hang on to that. It was important to me. It built my confidence. Self-confidence is one of the biggest pluses in this. So my message, there's a lot of people watching this that have probably got problems, had problems in learning. They may have been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, whatever. There's hope for you all. Look at me. I became champion. If I can become champion, then you can as well.
Absolutely. Sir, in India, I've been trying to promote this memory sport. And every time I reach out to parents, teachers, many people say, memory I need for passing an exam, to memorize some formulas, equations. Why should I take this memory as a sport? What benefit I'm going to get? So what do you think are the benefits of taking this memory as a sport and practicing it in a day-to-day manners? How is it going to help these youngsters and people like the parents and teachers?
Yeah, well, this was back in the early 1990s when I was winning competitions. I had started to go on television programs, radio programs, talking to journalists, and occasionally I'd get the question, well, computers can do all this sort of thing. What's the point in memorizing lots of numbers, thousands of numbers? Isn't it a bit like train spotting, plane spotting? Isn't this a sort of an obsession? What's the point of it? And really, apart from building the self-confidence, there's so many pluses involved in this, because we're dealing with working memory. There are all types of memory. There's short-term memory, long-term, episodic memory, semantic memory. But the one thing that is like a muscle is your working memory. So short-term memory can only hold about 4 to 6 bits of information. Whereas if you start training your working memory, there's no limit. Now, of course, it's not just about memorizing numbers and cards. It's making sense of the unintelligible. It's about coding. If you speak to any of the competitors, they'll have their own little system. They'll have their own images, their own coding mechanism, which they use. And that really is what learning is all about. The moment you're born, life is a challenge.
Yes.
And the first thing that the brain does is look at things and start to code using your imagination. So the imagination is the first thing that gets to work on it. So that's what it's taught me, that you can learn anything. If you can memorize binary digits, and people say, what's the point in memorizing ones and zeros? Thousands. People are memorizing over 10,000 binary digits in half an hour. Well, if you can make sense of something unintelligible like binary digits, then you can make sense of anything. All the sciences, you can learn languages, you can conquer anything. So it's very important. So I think it's the best game for your brain that you can play if you want to pass exams.
Yes. Dominic sir, basically we had been thinking of hosting that World Memory Championship last year, 2020 in India. And due to COVID, we couldn't do.
No,
and
that's
even this year,
great.
we were not able to do. But maybe 2022, we want to do. And here, a lot of people, they're keen that so far, Indians having such a good brain and having so much of talent, they're able to go to America, they're able to go to England, they're able to go across the globe. they're able to excel in every profession. But in this memory field, they have not excelled. So my aim is that how these people can really take this memory as a serious sport, how an Indian can become a world memory champion. That's what I had been working on that, sir.
Yes. It's only a matter of time, and I think you're very close to it. You have some great stars. You have, is it Mocha, Sri, Pratik?
Yes.
Who I think had the world record, or still has the world record in memorizing historic dates, something incredible. So you're that far away, and I know from experience, in the Indian people that I've met are very good with numbers, good accountants, and of course it's a lot of it's number based. So I just think that maybe the people need to know a bit more about it. They need to get enthused. But look, this is accessible to anybody and everybody. You just need a few basics to get on with. You're a great teacher. There's so much stuff out there on the internet. You've got your books, my books.
Yes.
Just get a taste for it. Have a go. It's a fun competition. And there's great camaraderie as well. So get involved, take part in the National Memory Championships of India, try it for yourself. I hope you've got some local competitions as well. I don't know what the situation is in India. I know it's been difficult with this blessed pandemic, but hopefully we're seeing the back of that now. So we can get back to normal. But what's interesting is that people haven't been idle during the pandemic, because they've used that time, a lot of the competitors, because they've had nothing else to do but to train their brain. So I think we're going to see the record. Every year since 1991, records have been broken. And I think we're going to see some amazing results at the next World Memory Championships. Hopefully, the next physical one will be in India.
Yeah,
again,
that's what
I applaud you. So
that's what we've been working on. I had written to the Prime Minister of India, the Vice President, and also the Sports Minister. All of them are very, very positive about hosting the World Memory Championship in the country. We look forward to having you and Reiki and Chris and then Phil Chambers, all of you, in India, where we can host you and we can learn from your experience. Dominic, the first thing is, right now there are so many youngsters are there, and they are taking part on 31st October, this memory championship. They want to know from you how their mindset should be for the next 25 days, what routine they should follow, and what care they should take, and what are the do's and don'ts if they want to win this year's championship. So they want to learn few things from you.
Yes. I think, first of all, I would say, as long as you've got the right strategy that helps you, there are people that use different systems, but basically, as long as you're using the combination of association, imagination, of course, and location. I hope you're all using places. Some people call it memory palaces, Roman room method. I was the first to call it the journey method back in the 1990s. So it's a journey to, when I first memorized my first deck of cards, I had a journey of 52 stages, and it was around a golf course. Interestingly enough, again, from nostalgia, these are my very first notes. You can see that. That was my first journey. See how old the paper is, how torn it is. So I made a note, 1 to 52, of interesting places along a golf course. And then I had old houses that I used to live in. Once you've got your systems and your strategy worked out, measure yourself. That's very important. I use spreadsheets, Excel, and I make notes. I make notes of mistakes. Now, another important point is, don't look for perfection when you're training. Look for perfection when you're competing, but not when you're training.
Okay.
Many years ago, we used to have a women's world memory championship and a men's. We did that to sort of annoy the women, thinking, well, what's wrong with us? Why can't we compete on a level footing? That was to attract more women. But we had a women's champion. And she said to me, look, I can't get faster than 4.5 minutes when I'm memorizing a deck of cards. And I said, oh, okay. So in practice, how many mistakes are you making? And she said, I'm not making any mistakes. And I said, well, that's where you're making a mistake. You've got to push yourself. You've got to see where the weak areas are. And you should be looking to make sort of 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 errors. Really, then you can identify those weak areas. So what I do is I have a spreadsheet, and I would say 50% of the time I'm making mistakes when I'm memorizing cards and numbers, that sort of thing. Because, and I also make notes. I say, well, I'm not feeling very well today, or I got my journey mixed up. And I even have graphs, can you believe? So I can see my rate of progress, because sometimes it's can be a lonely sport. If you're training at home, you're in your bedroom, in your office, and you're not with anybody else, people aren't appreciating what you're doing. But if you look back and you can see the graph going in the right way, you're speeding up, that's very helpful. So measuring is important. Make a note of the mistakes, see where you're making the mistakes. Journeys, I talked about the journey method. You need to rotate those. So I also make a note of which journeys I'm using. The journey method is so powerful that sometimes the reason I'm making mistakes is that I'm still remembering sequences from days ago or even weeks ago. So that's why it's important to make notes. That's why it's important to measure, because you want to know, well, is there something wrong with my brain? I'm not feeling well. Oh, no, it's because I used the same journey 3 days ago. That's why I keep making mistakes. Simulate the World Memory Championships. It's all very well sitting in your bedroom at home or in the office, but you don't feel the pressure. It amused me back in the early 90s because people would come up to me and they say, oh, Dominic, I'm afraid I'm going to beat you this year. I've read one of your books and I've been training very hard and I'm going to beat all your records. And of course, when it comes to sitting in a room with other people, they don't appreciate the pressure, and that gets them. Now, Simon Reinhart, who's probably the best memorizer in the world, never to win the World Memory Championships, used to go out from Germany. He used to go out in the into towns and cities, and he'd have a little table, and he'd sit there with a deck of cards, and he'd memorize them, and people would walk past. So you get all these distractions. And I thought that's a great way of training, because you've got a lot of pressure there, a lot of distractions. And that's why, at least when he used to compete at the World Memory Championships, he never had headphones. He never had little glasses. He was completely confident, oblivious to what was going on. So that's another good tip. Andy Bell, my great rival, he said, I'm going to beat you this year. This is probably back in 1996, something like that, 95. And he didn't, because he didn't get a good night's sleep. Sleep is very important. Your brain has to recover, especially if you're working hard, if you're concentrating, if you're training all day long. You need good night's sleep. Avoid alcohol. If you like a drink, I like a drink, but avoid alcohol. And normally I wouldn't have a drink probably a month before the World Memory Championships. 3 months probably. Good nutrition, meditation is good, yoga. Now, a little secret, a little tip here, and I've never really talked about this much because I didn't want other people to know this, and I made the mistake of telling one of the competitors, Dr. Gunther Karsten from Germany, about this. And I wish I hadn't, because he went on to beat me and become world memory champion. Anyway, a little machine here. You see that?
Yeah.
It's got a little battery here. It's called audio visual stimulation. Don't use this if you have epilepsy. But what it does, it flashes lights, very gentle. It's like pulsating lights, and it relaxes you. So I would wear these.
Sir, I don't.
Just before a competition. You have headphones as well. So it's a beat and it's a light, and it relaxes your brain to all the frequencies that you need when you're memorizing. alpha, theta, that sort of thing. So for the first time, I'm telling you about this. Be careful what you buy. There's plenty of them on the internet. But that's a little tip. Now, you can't beat training, of course. So you need good sleep, nutrition. You need to be able to relax, especially under the competition pressures. And of course, you can't beat the training, which you need to do. And that in itself is a way of relaxing because you're accessing these pleasant frequencies, alpha, theta. I spent a lot of time studying the electrics of the brain, if you like, frequencies. I've got my own equipment here, electroencephalographic equipment. So I put little wires on my head. I measure my brain. I don't do it so much these days because I'm not a world memory champion, but in those days, every little thing that gave me an edge was important. So I think I've covered quite a lot there. Little secrets, little tips there.
Thank you, Dominic, sir. Now, before other people would like to ask questions, just I want to play a small video on this Indian National Memory Championship. And then I'll put you through other people who want to ask some questions to you. Sunil, could you play the video, please? Then I'll show the PPT. So we can see a lot of certificates behind you. They are from London. They are behind you. Lot of certificates from the Guinness World Record and lot of achievements there. I'm just showing all my Indian friends. So many things behind you. Friends, many of you would like to ask questions to Dominic, sir. Right now he's in London. Now time there is around 4 p.m. Right, sir? Now before you could ask questions, I just want to make a small little PPT to all of you. that this year International Memory Championship is happening on 31st of October 2021. That's supposed to be on Sunday. And this is a online memory championship. Why memory sports? Dominic sir already covered in depth the importance of memory sport, taking this as a memory, into a profession. And any Indian or you are from a foreign country, you can take part in the competition. This was 2019 competition where Dominic sir had come as our, chief, chief of ethics committee to Bangalore, and you can see Dominic sir there in the screen on the screen, and you also know. Okay, this was before here. And if you take part in the memory championship, you know that first of all, World Memory Sports Council, you will get a certificate, participant certificate, which is going to help you in your academics. Using these techniques, you can excel in your 10th, 12th, IIT, NEET exam. You can crack UPSC exam. You can have super health. Even you can beat Alzheimer's dementia. So lifelong, this memory is going to be with you, number one. Number two, you can win more than 10 lakh rupees prize money, and you can win the medals, trophies, and certificates. And right now in IIMs and IITs too, they're giving extra credits for you participating in the memory championships. And this was with Vice President of India, and who has promised us to make this sport part of memory as a part of sports in the country. And when it becomes a part of the sport category, you will have a lot of advantage by next year, and you will get lifetime membership. And you are able to listen not only to me, but to Dominic O'Brien from London. He is speaking to you for the first time, okay, in the history of memory in India. And that was Tony Buzan, and then rest of the dignitaries on the screen. And I represented India at that time. This is a letter from the Prime Minister, who said after COVID, we shall definitely incorporate this memory into sports, into school curriculum, into college curriculum. It is going to be part of our life. And if you can take part in this competition, it's going to help us. This was the sports minister, Rajawat Singh Rathore, and who can take part? Kids up till 12 years. You will be in the kids category. Junior, 13 to 17 years. Adults, 18 to 59. Senior category, 60 years and above. That means you may be male or female. You are young or old, or you are a professional. Anyone can take part in this competition. If you think that, yes, I want to learn, I want to challenge my memory, this is for you. We have 5 disciplines right now: memorizing random numbers, random words, binary numbers, playing cards, and historical feature dates. And we got prize money worth 10 lakh rupees. And we got not only that's prize money in the kids category, prize fund. We got a lot of courses to give you, different courses. Okay. English kid too, he can win the money. So you got certificate for everyone to for participation. Second, top 10 people will get certificate. And also in each discipline, top 10 people will get a certificate. And in each category will get certificate, and will get medal and trophies. And you got more than 10 lakh rupees worth prize fund in terms of cash prizes, and also the courses that you can win. And your scores will be there in the National Memory Council of India.com forever. And you get to represent India at the World Memory Platform, and you'll be able to meet who, right? This discipline. And students, teachers, professors, adults, parents, trainers, anyone who's interested in the field of memory can take part in the competition. And eligibility. So I'm an old guy, can you participate? Look at Mr. Hemant Joshi, 64 years old. He went on to become 3 times Indian memory champion and 2 world records as well in his name. And Pratik Yadav, which Dominic sir was talking about, and he is 10 times Indian memory champion and 2 world records as well. And 26-year-old Pratik Yadav as well. And you see all these youngsters already first, second, third, 14 years, 26 years, 20 years, 64 years, 55 years, 54 years, 8 years, 14 years, all. Anyone benefited from memory sport, let me tell you, look at this guy. This guy's name is Vineet. When he was in 7th class, he took part in the memory championship. And right now he's in IIM Ahmedabad. Look at this photograph left side, because he got extra credits for being part of the memory championship. So this is Vineet for you. And one more girl, she got into IIM Shillong as well. Many people got into IAS exam and many different exams as well. Okay. And how to register? There's a fee of 1499 examination fee, and the link is already there in the chat box. You and your mother, your sister, brother, father, grandfather, anyone can take part in the competition. You still have now 26 more days to go for this competition. And this is our website, jayasimha.in, indianmemorychampionship.com, nationalmemoryconcept.com. You can click the link and register. These are our helpful numbers. You can be part of it. Okay. So there's a special training also, 3-in-1 combo pack. That means you want to crack this competition. It is very fortunate that we are talking to Dominic sir, but you want to go through the nitty-gritties, and there's a course which I have made it, develop a video course on this. There is also practicing software on this, and also action plan. Just for 2,999, you'll be able to get this course as well. So enough time. So this is about the championship, okay? And now my question is, right? So I just want to leave this competition because you heard Pratik Yadav, you heard Hemant Joshi, you heard Bhuvan, and you also heard Pawan Bhattad, and today the God of Gods, the living legend in memory, from London, talking to you about the importance of memory sports, in our life. And he will be there with us next year when we have the World Memory Competition. And you have this chance to take part. So don't let go this opportunity. And then you should be taking part. And you have any questions, Dominic sir is available. So I'm requesting Sunil to unmute anyone who would like to ask questions. Dominic sir would be very happy to answer any question. He's right now from London talking to the Indian participants. Okay. Any one of you would like to ask any question to Dominic sir, please welcome, raise your hand. And Shrevan, could you unmute Shrevan, please? Yeah.
So, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Jayasimha, sir. Good afternoon, Dominic Brown, sir.
Hello,
Sir,
how are you?
Yeah, fine, sir. Sir, in Indian culture, we actually touch feet of our guru. So, you are my guru because I have started this just because of you. I am a memory trainer based out of Mumbai, and I'm working in this field from last 1 year.
Oh,
So,
you're very kind. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you've taken up the sport and you're passing it on. That's the most important thing.
So, sir, just one question. How you able to maintain without writing it down? How you able to maintain everything or memorize everything without writing it down in the competition, not in practice situation?
How do I remember it without writing it down?
Yeah, because there's no method we can write down in the competition. We are not allowed to write down before memorizing, while memorizing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very particular about making notes, particularly things like historic dates. You can't write anything down. And abstract images, obviously, because some people might want to measure. So you don't need to write anything down, do you? If you've got a good strategy, if you've been training hard, why do you need to write anything? It's all here.
Yeah.
There's some very interesting studies that I did with Tracy Alloway, who's a psychologist, and she trained 30,000 students. And these were students that had problems in learning, attention deficit disorder, the things we covered, dyslexia. She can predict with 95% accuracy how successful a student is going to be in their exams. Now, she can measure their working memory when they're 5, 6 years old, and she can predict when they're 13 what their exam results are going to be. 95% accuracy.
Yeah.
And just by giving them a program, she had a program called Jungle Memory. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you have the right strategies. If you train your working memory, you get such huge improvements that you don't need to write things down. Yeah. And the great thing about memory palaces, the journey method, people say to me, well, are you going to fill your memory up if you keep memorizing cards and numbers and things? No, it's like going into a room and there are 3 doors. And if you go to any one of those doors, you go to another room with 3 doors. So it just builds and builds and builds because physically you're making new connections in the brain. So it's much better to store it here than on bits of paper. Bits of paper get lost.
Sir, and one last thing, how much journey method or how many journey method one should have if you want to compete in world level, world memory sports council?
How many journeys do you need? Right. So you need as many as you can calculate to remember all the 10 disciplines. So you've got to calculate that first. Spreadsheets are great for that. Now, one big tip, if you speak to the top, these days I would say top 500 memorizers in the world, they'll all say you must rest your journeys for at least 2 weeks before, because they're so powerful, you're going to get a ghosting, a double image. So they don't just rest them in those 2 weeks before a vital competition. They have spare journeys that they use for training. So that's another good tip there. So have enough journeys as you need, but you will develop your favorite ones. And my favorite ones are houses I used to live in, because they're intimate to me. I know all the rooms. I can remember going back to when I was 2 years old. Can you believe that?
Yes.
Some people think you can't remember things until you're about 3 or 4, but I can remember being in my cot, shaking the bars of my cot when I was 2 years old. And I still use the journey around that house that we left when I was 3 to win some World Memory Championships.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Another question?
Yes, please.
Sir, this is Vaishnavi Suman, and I have always been a big fan of yours. And today is really a great opportunity that I can meet you in person. Sir, I just want to ask that as you come into this memory sports, you gain a lot of curiosity that how the things work and all those things. So from starting only you gain that curiosity, but then when you progress in the sports, you feel like you are not going as constant as you have to. Like you don't do practices every day, like how you have to do. So how can we be more constant in our practices?
Now, I'm just trying to get round what you're asking here. Are you talking about how do you keep the energy up, the incentive up, the curiosity?
Yes, sir.
Keep training every day, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I go back to what I said earlier. If you measure yourself, and spreadsheets are great for that, you can do all kinds of wonderful graphs these days, it's all free off the internet, you see your rate of increase. Now, sometimes you're going to have bad days, and you're going to start cursing, you're going to get angry, frustrated, like any other sport, because you're going to have off days. But if you look at the general trend, it goes up and down, then it goes, eventually you've got a line that goes up. That's what keeps you going. And also you set yourself some goals. Don't forget what you're doing. Less than 1% of the population can do that. It's probably 0.1 or less. And that's another thing I was impressed by sportsmen and women like Serena Williams, the great tennis player. They said, what keeps you going? How do you get over your nerves? That sort of thing. She said, well, I just think back to what I've done, what I've achieved, and I'm doing something that no one else has done. I've got this far, and that gives me the confidence. So you've got to make a start. But be careful, I said earlier, it can be quite addictive. It can ruin marriages if you're not careful. If you're going to start spending 5 to 10 hours a day memorizing numbers. But don't worry, it's a good addiction. It's one of the best addictions you can have. It's clean. It's good for the brain. And of course, great for school kids. I wish someone had come to my school when I was struggling, when I thought I was stupid, aged 11, 12, and I thought, I'm not cut out for it. I left school when I was 15 because I thought I was stupid. Couldn't remember anything.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
So
much.
keep going with it.
Yes, sir.
Who knows, you could be the next world memory champion.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Akshay Mehta, and nice to meet you, sir. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much for spending time with us. The question is how much time we should take, minimum to maximum, to study this memory?
Right. Now, if I say Akshonama, does that sound like your name? Have I got it right?
Akshara, yes, sir.
It's
Akshana?
Akshara, sir, yes.
Akshana, does that sound good? I'm thinking of Action Man standing on the letter A, Akshana. Is that close? Well, look, actually, how much time have you got to spend every day?
1 hour, sir.
1 hour. Do you enjoy memory training?
Yes, sir.
Right? Then my answer is 1 hour a day. Look, it's up to you. You'll find some days you're not really interested in it. I had those days. I even had weeks like that. So don't worry if you don't want to do it. You don't have to do it every day. Just as I say, measure yourself, look at your rate of progress, and think, yeah, I need to do this today. But you know, don't make it like hard work. You've got to enjoy it. The moment you stop enjoying it, that's not the right thing for you. But I can tell you love it, don't you? Yeah.
Yes,
So spend as much time as you're allowed to spend on it.
yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, sir. Soon. Like, okay. I will be there.
She's my student, Dominic, sir. Wonderful girl she is.
She's a wonderful.
Training, she's my student. She's training.
Yeah. Oh, she's going to do well then.
Yeah.
One of your students, obviously.
We got one budding trainer, sir. Prasad from Hyderabad, the city that I live in. He want to get into this memory training. So many people want to ask this question before they ask the question is there future if we take this memory coaching to students? Can we really flourish? Can we really progress? What do you think is the future of memory sport or memory field for them to take it up as a profession, sir? What do you think is the future of this memory across the globe?
Well, look at the world today. What's it lacking? Creative thought, creativity, imagination. We need it more than ever. And
Yes.
right at the heart of memory training is creativity, and that's where memory comes into its own. If you want to memorize thousands of meaningless bits of information like binary digits, playing cards, you need a good imagination. You need creativity. And that's the one thing that people overlook, that's what it boosts. The other thing, because we're dealing with working memory, is it helps you to prioritize information. So there are so many benefits to it. It helps you to focus what's important, gives you a better attitude so you can stay motivated. It helps you to stay on track, where most people give up. They can see their goals and they can keep going. Now, I'm just going to give you a little example here about a verbal IQ and working memory. I'm going to give you 5 words. I'm going to give you chair, desk, mirror, apple, bookcase. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but do you know roughly what those 5 words are? Can you remember those in sequence? Yeah. Chair, desk, mirror, apple, bookcase. Now, some kids will be able to remember that, but they won't be able to tell you what the odd one out is. Now, the odd one out is apple, because that's the only one you can eat. You can try eating the rest. So some kids have got a very good use of language, verbal IQ, but they've got a poor working memory. They can't manipulate bits of information. Now, as you start training your memory, Tracy Alloway described it as a desk. It's your working space. Some people only have a small desk where you can only hold 2 or 3 bits of information, like a business card, pack of cards, and a pen. That's it. When you start training your working memory, suddenly you have access to more information, more concepts, where you can find links. And that's what the world needs today, is a better working memory. So you can take different concepts and find solutions. And we need solutions to solve the world's problems. So I always say this, educators are the most important people in the world, because they solve problems for the next generation. And memory is key to it. The first lesson you should have when you go to school is to learn how to learn. And that's where memory comes into it. Am I right?
Absolutely, sir.
You have the best job in the world. So
Yes.
continue with it.
Prasad, unmute. Prasad, unmute. Prasad, unmute.
Yes, sir. Yeah, am I able? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So myself, Prasad sir, and it's a very great opportunity, Dominic sir. I was able to interact with you, and I'm a software professional. And my question is regarding consistency, sir. It's very inspiring for all of us. So you won like 8 World Memory Championships. So what is your suggestion to all of us, sir? Like that, your effort actually from the first memory championship you won in '91, and the last 8th one you. So in this journey, so do you think, sir, like your suggestion? Just we want to know. So this is the technique when you train this thing, right? So do we need this hard work need to be there for every? Is it the same, or like automatically it will become like automatic, and with this working memory, it improves a lot and automatically some extent. So that much effort what you made in the '91 championship, it is that much is not needed in the upcoming things. So like that kind of things will happen, sir, to our memory, mind, and everything.
Now, I got some of that, but I could. The audio wasn't that great, so maybe you can help me out, Jayasimha.
Yes, sir.
Can you just tell me what the question was?
He was asking the amount of hard work you put in the first memory championship. As you went on to win the second one, third one, fourth one, as of now, are you working with the same intensity, or as the effort has gone up or gone down? How is it? He's asking. Should we spend same number of hours to practice?
I'm naturally a lazy person, so I would say I spent less hours.
Okay.
It's all down in those days. It's down to the competition, and I can tell you, back in those days, people were not training 5 to 10 hours a day like they do today, and that's one of the reasons I stopped in 2002, 2003, because I found out, I couldn't spare the time to do that 5 to 10 hours a day. So I needed to do what I needed to do to win. And this was great advice from Norris McWhirter, who set up the Guinness Book of Records with his brother Ross. So I got to know Norris very well. And he said, you should never break a record by more than a second, or whatever you need to do. Just look at the competition first and work accordingly to that. But have something under your belt. But I never lost the enthusiasm. And the last time I competed was a couple of years ago at the Senior Memory Championships in China, which I won. Yeah. So I'm in my own category now, 60, and I'm doing just enough to beat the competition. I need to see who's around, and then I might need to work a bit harder.
Yes.
But not everyone's lazy like me.
Thanks. The next person, please.
Good. Nice to meet you. What's your question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can.
Yeah. Hi, Dominic, sir. So you're a great inspiration. Basically, I've actually heard your audio book while commuting from office, and that's where I got very curious about the memory thing. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge through that. So my question to you is, so in today's world, so I'm basically a software professional, and I've gone through the methods and the syllabus for the memory championships. So we have things and techniques to remember words, random words, numbers, binary numbers, and cards.
In your business, you need to know about coding, don't you?
Yes. So how do we derive things? Like I would like to remember the codes and the syntaxes of the programming. So I would wish to remember more. So this is something which is not this is something which is specific to my niche. Yeah. And there would be doctors who would have something specific to their niche. So how do we derive techniques or methods to remember more things in our own area of work?
Right. So my first question to you is, you said you read the syllabus. Have you actually started to use the techniques? Have you exploited them yet, or explored them rather?
Yeah, I've started exploring them. I've not exploited them per se.
Okay, so how far have you got? Have you just learnt the basics?
Yes, I'm just training myself to like visualize and link random things in words. So
Okay.
which are not related at all. So that
So you haven't got onto numbers yet, or binary digits, that sort of thing?
Not yet on the numbers much. Yeah.
What I would say to you is explore it further,
Mhm.
particularly with the numbers, because then you realize it's all about coding. You have to turn numbers into pictures.
Right.
And you'll come up with your own system for doing that. There's one called the major system, which I think was so complicated,
Right.
too many options. That's why I developed my own, the Dominic system. That's not cast in stone. You can have your own system, but whatever suits you. And once you start using that, then you will realize, you'll work it out for yourself, what strategy you can use for syntaxes and for different codings and software. It'll become second nature to you. It's interesting that we had one memory champion that was an accountant. He won it 3 times. We've other people that are interested in software as well that have become champions. So yeah, it'll all become obvious to yourself. But people ask, I get a lot of emails every day. How do you do this? And I said, well, have you read my book? Have you tried it? Have you explored memory? Because you can answer your own question on that. I'm sorry if it doesn't sound very helpful, but anything can be coded. As to begin with, I said the moment we're born, life is very difficult, and it's all about turning things into pictures, creating models of the world. Right. And the ones that are smart enough to be able to get the models so they can understand the world better are the ones that are going to succeed.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit deep here, but there's always a solution.
Correct. Yeah.
But you've got to let your imagination run riot.
Yeah.
So it's like learning a language, like learning the sciences, chemistry, all those symbols, that sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Once you start training your memory, it's like, oh yeah, I know how to do that.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you so much for your time.
Good luck.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm very interested in software.
Yeah.
It's changing the world for the better, I believe.
Yes. Yes. And creativity, it's like the memory training has, I mean, I've observed this. I'm getting better ideas for like startups and like new startups coming up every day. So we can link 2 very irrelevant areas and we can solve problems. So that is
there's a direct correlation, isn't there, between the training and creativity?
Correct.
Good point. You've heard it from this guy. Oh, sorry, what's your name?
My name is Rajneesh. Rajneesh, yeah.
Rajneesh.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Rajneesh.
Yeah.
Good luck for the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Dominic sir, we have Harshit here. Is a lawyer by profession, legal expert who would like to ask a question.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Nice to meet you. Harshit?
Harshit, yes.
Yeah.
It's
nice
with the shit in the end. It's easy to identify with that.
Okay.
Well, I actually had 2 questions on memory, but after listening to your story, I managed to have a third because the story that you narrated about your childhood, about the ADHD diagnosis and general time spent in daydreaming is generally the story of my life. And the first question that I want to ask you is, did you actively manage to overcome your daydreaming problem, or did you manage to use it in your memory, or how did that play a role in what you're doing now? Because that
Very
would really
good question.
be an inspiration.
I love the question. Very important question as well. I was only thinking about that today. Have I overcome my attention deficit disorder, my daydreaming? No, I haven't, but I've learned to control it and use it to my advantage. So again, it's that word serendipity, something good from something bad. I think it's an ability to be able to switch off and daydream. We've all done that as babies, but then we're told to wake up, concentrate, particularly if you're in class, sit down, put those down, stop fidgeting, pay attention. And we get drummed out of it, we get conditioned out of it. So I'm glad I had that problem as a kid, but I've learned to control it. I mean, you need to be able to control it. You need to concentrate if you're going to win the World Memory Championships. So I can very easily slip back into it if I want. I can switch off now. There we are, done it. I can come back in the room. So yeah, I've used that to my advantage. I think that was an advantage for me because it's the ability to allow your brain to slow down so you can entertain any ideas that you want without restriction, which is what you need. You need to come up with immediate associations, creativity, coding, as we were just talking about with Rajnik. Yeah, so I've used it to my advantage. It's an ability, as far as I'm concerned. It was disruptive as a kid because I couldn't control it. I was stuck in this brainwave frequency. I couldn't speed up. And I think the great tragedy is that they give kids Ritalin and Concerto drugs to speed the brain up, whereas it should be done naturally. And one of the best ways of training yourself out of it or gaining control is through games like this. And I call it the game of memory. We introduced the Schools Memory Championships, Tony Bazan, Ray Keane and I, back in the 1990s, because we were going around to schools, we were showing them memory techniques, and they thought that was great, but it wasn't instilled and it wasn't installed in the students because they went back to their old ways, or the teachers refused to use it. But when we introduced the game of memory, they started competing. Then it's exactly what you're saying. They learned to, well, as I was talking to Rajneesh, they found strategies for themselves to learn, to code information. So yeah, one of the most important games you can play, one of the most important lessons you should ever have as soon as you go to school is to learn the art of memory. If you don't daydream, as Tony used to say, Tony Bazan, you die. We all have that ability, but you need to be able to control it. Sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but there we are.
Well, if you don't mind me asking a follow-up on this question itself, and I won't take long. When you're starting off, or when you did start off at that point, what does it look like controlling your brain's daydreaming, specifically daydreaming? Does that mean you use that opportunity to memorize things, or do you use the same set of, I don't know, imagination, the same set of skills in your memory? Or does that mean telling yourself to, okay, I need to stop right now, I need to do this, and I need to get over this? What does that control look like?
Well, I was trying to think of a correlation here. I suppose it's a bit like losing weight. You know, you don't tell your body fat to fall off. It just starts to happen when you start doing aerobic exercise or start running. You know, this is the benefit of so many benefits to keeping fit. So it's the same with memory. My goal with memory was to try and get that deck of cards in my head in the shortest space of time as possible. I didn't start thinking about working memory, episodic memory, concentration, daydreaming, all that sort of stuff. That was my goal. And what I noticed was all those things got better. So on reflection, I've thought, wow, this is not just about some geeky thing, being able to remember numbers and cards. The benefits are huge because you're training your working memory. It's like a muscle. We've talked about this, you know, the benefits of creativity, forward thinking, motivations, staying on goal when most people give up, seeing the bigger picture. I mean, that's what problem solving is all about.
Thank you, sir. If you don't mind, can I ask one last question before I take your leave? Is in terms of your training towards becoming a memory champion or towards memory sports in general, I wanted to know, you mentioned that how long you train and how hard you have to train, but I wanted to know what kind of training do you look at? Is it, so for example, do you start specifically focusing on the sports, the activities that will be involved in the sports, or do you generally train your ability to memorize, let's say, while reading as well, or other activities? Is it a sports specific training, or is it a general training that you have to continue with while you're preparing for the sports?
Well, I started off before there were any sports, and that was my initial goal was to try and memorize a deck of cards. What I thought was going to happen was that I was going to train a tiny part of my brain to have this extra facility, that of memorizing and only memorizing a deck of cards. And what I didn't realize was, as we've been talking about the wider benefits, I realized that I could memorize numbers. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, words. Oh, faces. And so the whole thing expanded. My whole world got larger. And then I thought, there's all kinds of possibilities. So it was specifically that deck of cards that set the whole thing off. And actually, it's such an elegant way of measuring the state of your memory, as far as I'm concerned. So most of the time, I'm a bit guilty because I haven't done this for a few weeks now. I need to start training again. But when I come back to it, somehow I haven't lost anything. I'm still able to memorize a deck of cards in less than a minute. So that's, for me, that is a great measure. But I am going to be setting a new world record in 2022. I'm going to keep that under my belt, what it is, but it's something to do with literature.
Okay. And we look forward to having that record in India, because 2022, we are going to have the World Memory Championship here in Dominic. Next year,
yes,
the World Memory Championship will be in our country, in India. And you should be able to break that record. Yes.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
Yes.
hope so.
And one last question from the young man. Okay. One last question. Yes, please.
Hello, sir. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I'm Divyanshu.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Sir, I'm fine, but I have a question. Like, you won 8 championships, so how did you maintain that pressure? Like, you maintain strong, like, to win those?
The reason I did that was, and I said earlier, Serena Williams, a great tennis player, female tennis player, she was doing something that no one else had done. And that gave her the confidence. So that's how I got over the pressure, because I realized the other thing I did was I started doing some very weird television programs. I started off doing a bit of radio, local TV, and then a big show I did in Switzerland back in 1989. And there were 5,000 people in the audience. And I made the mistake of asking the producer, I said, how many people are watching this on television? He said, this goes all over Europe, and there are 40 million people watching you live. And I had to memorize 6 decks of cards, and I had to stay on stage, and Liza Minnelli was there. So this was back in quite the early days. I'd only been training my memory for a couple of years. This was before the very first World Memory Championships. And I thought, I've always used that. I thought, if I can do that in front of 40 million people, then there's no pressure, because I was thrown in the deep end. And I love the sport anyway. It's such a great, I mean, what a wonderful sport where you can go off anywhere in the universe and think of anything you want, and no one can stop you, and you're achieving something. So how are you getting on with the memory training? You enjoy it?
How are you getting on the memory training? Divyanshu? Yes.
Sir, yeah, it's going good. It's
Good.
going good. And
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite discipline?
like, sir, like memorizing words in like bits, like long words in bit.
Long words in bits, syllables. So you break the word down into syllables and you come up with images, interesting images. Brilliant. Keep at it. Maybe you're going to get the next world record.
Yes.
For your category.
Yeah. Shravan, one last question with this. Shravan, unmute yourself. Yes.
Hi, Dominic sir. Hi, Jayasimha sir. And thanks, Dominic sir, for taking your valuable time and inspiring this nation. And whoever are in this call, they are going to be something special after this meeting for sure. And their parents who are watching, their mindset will change in terms of dealing their kids and all. Thanks for being, and So as a motivational speaker, so I'm a full-time software employee, and I do train people because there are so many suicides happening over the country and over the world. So 800,000 suicides are happening, and alone in India, 230,000 suicides, because people are like, maybe they are not able to crack their exams and all. They feel that as the pressure, and they are committing suicide, which is a sad part. And most of the people, most of the students complain that when they sit in the exam room, they forget because of the pressure. So what kind of advice do you give, how to overcome that pressure? Because the sleep and the pressure, stress and all, if you can reduce that one stress, it will do a miracle. So how do you cope up with this kind of pressure? Because when you are competing with these world-class competitors and being a world-class member, champion, so how you deal with this one? How do you look at as a pressure, and how you cope up with that?
Well, number one is the confidence that you have, knowing that the strategy, the techniques will work, because you know where the information is, because you've stored it somewhere in a physical place, in a location. Now, when you're studying for exams, the way I studied, it used to be cramming, rote learning, repetition. So it was drummed into my brain. And I couldn't rely on it coming out. I didn't know where to find the information. So now when I'm working, I work with mature students, I work with lawyers, accountants, lawyers that have to move from different states, from Boston to California, and you have to take the bar exam, and they might be 50 years plus. And suddenly they've got they said, oh, I've forgotten how to be a student again. Now, when I give them the techniques using locations, the journey method, memory palaces, they place the information in rooms, in towns, in villages, wherever it is they want to store it. So they've got the confidence, they know where it is. So they're just waiting for the question to come up, and they go straight to it. So that's number one. If that's not enough, and that should be enough, then you've got, you can simulate an exam situation. I mentioned Simon Reinhardt used to go out into his hometown and city and sit with a little table with a pack of cards. So he dealt with the pressure that way. Simulate being in an exam room. Very important to get a good night's sleep. So don't play games. I want to do away with cramming. There's a thing called spaced repetition, which Squadron leader Jayasimha will tell you all about. So if you store something, you review it immediately the next day, next week, next month, 3 to 6 months later. It's there forever. You don't need to relearn information. Students should never have to relearn information. Also, don't worry about getting 100% correct. I mentioned the girl that wanted to beat 4.5 minutes to become world memory champion in the female category. And I said, how many mistakes are you making? None. That's where you're going wrong. So when you're studying and you review what you've been studying, aim for about 85 to 95%. I like 95%. I like to make mistakes when I'm memorizing cards in practice, because I want to know where my weak areas are. There's so much you can do, but so simulating the exam situation, getting the right strategy, not being afraid of making mistakes, don't relearn information, use the strategies, use spaced repetition. I could go on, I can talk about this for 2 days, but I hope that's been of some help.
Dominic sir, many people wanting to ask questions, but my request to each and every one of you is that kindly post the question to me and I will send them to Dominic sir. I will get his answers and reply them back to you. But one quick tip and one last advice from you, Dominic sir, to all these people who are going to take part in this year Indian National Memory Championship. What one advice and one wishes from you, it would really motivate them.
Something that
advice, yes. Yes.
I think I've said it already. I can't beat what I've said. Look, I was written off when I was a kid. I had a knock to my brain as a child. I was very slow. I didn't start speaking till I was 4, but neither did Einstein. So I left school when I was 15. I thought I was stupid. My teachers told me I was stupid. I had dyslexia. I believe I had attention deficit disorder. I was inspired by one man memorizing a deck of cards, that little simple act, and I became inquisitive. That turned my life around. And I discovered my brain. Everybody has a brain. The best way to discover your brain, I believe, is through the game of memory. Take it up, enjoy it, compete, and speak to Squadron Leader Jayasimha. And I'll see you, hopefully, at the next World Memory Championships, which could well be in India next year.
Yes, sir. Dominic, sir, first of all, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. From London, talking to all the Indian memory participants, it was not so easy, but thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you in 2019 in Bangalore when you had come for the memory championship. And I look forward to having you again in India next year when we have the World Memory Championships. And I'm sure all the memory athletes, students, parents, teachers, and also the memory coaches, trainers, and you have seen the living legend of memory, who has done it all, who has seen it all, and is right now in front of you, and how much he has spoken to all of you. So you must take this memory sport seriously and bring India to the right place. We are supposed to be the number one in the whole world. And I'm sure with his motivation, having him as a role model, and I'm sure all of you children, you can really do it well. And I have this dream of making one Indian as a world memory champion. And I wanted to conduct the first ever world memory championship next year in the country. And you can be that. If only you can start practicing, if you can register, and if you can participate in this memory championship. So thank you so much to all of you. And the link is already in the chat box. If not, call up our helping numbers. And Dominic, sir, thank you so much for being with us. Okay, so grateful to you. And we look forward to seeing you next year in India again, 2022. And best wishes for your new world record that you're going to create in literature. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone. Bye. Good night, everyone. And Sunil, you can play the small little video, please. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. And also all the memory athletes, students and parents, good night to each and every one of you. And next 25 days, concentrate, as Dominic sir told you, have a good night's sleep, stress-free, keep practicing it. And I look forward to seeing you on 31st of October in the Indian National Memory Championship. Register tonight and be part of this memory game. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. So thank you so much, sir. Love you all. Bye-bye. Good night.